Welcome to another edition of For the Health of It. I'm your host, Corian K-Pad Paget, and today we are interviewing Christopher Dunnells. Mr. Dunnells is the editor of Canal St Chronicles. Is that correct, Chris?
That's right.
All right. Good job. So, and also I have a very special guest in the role of intern / producer with me.
Yo.
Very good friend of mine, former student of mine, Austin Lindsay. Austin, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Coach P. How you doing?
I'm doing great. So, Austin, I'm gonna sit back for a little bit, and you can take the first couple of questions with Chris.
All right, cool, Chris. We get our one-on-one time, so let's get it rolling.
Go ahead, get rid of Corn. He's on board.
All right, so being from Canal St Chronicles and things like that, so we want to start off with how did you find out this career was for you, or what enveloped you to go into this career?
Sure.
To say.
Yeah, so I was writing already for a while. So I'm a lawyer by day. So I had a blog that I was managing for my own website when I was just private practice, just an attorney by myself. Just to try to get people, coming to my website, answering questions about the law, like how do you get a divorce or whatever. So I was writing already on the internet and was already kind of familiar with that. And then I'm a Saints fan at heart.
Yeah.
So there was already, different sites out there. And Canal St Chronicles is the New Orleans Saints team site for SB Nation. So I was already going there for information, for news, for analysis before I ever started writing there. And then it just so happened, this is back in 2014 maybe, that they had a job opening come up for a staff writer there, for someone just to come in, not as an editor role, just as a writer. So what I did was I used those writing samples I had for my law blog and emailed those to the editor at the time and said, hey, I'd love to come on. Here are some examples that I have as writing samples. And then he ended up having me on. I started in 2014, became one of the editors there in 2016. And then this past Christmas, I took over as the managing editor. So now I run the whole thing.
Okay, so would you say that was a Christmas gift, so to speak, Christmas present?
Man, you know what? It's a blessing and a curse. So there's some good stuff that comes with it, but it's hard. I got a lot of personalities I'm trying to manage. So a lot of different people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in your ear chirping. So the next thing, so that's going into my next question. So what are some of the challenges that you faced in this occupation, maybe, or what are some of the other things?
So managing people is always the hardest, right?
Yeah.
So you have different writers, you have different people who have different agendas of what they want to do. And really one thing that I'm learning now is this generational gap is tough. So I've got some writers who are your age, and then I have some who are in their 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
So having someone come in, and we all kind of chat in the group chat by DMs. So when I have someone come in and say, no cap, in a DM, and then I've got a 50-year-old guy saying, what in the world are you talking about? Who's
what is cap?
What's going on? So, just dealing with these different people is one of the struggles right now.
Okay, cool. Could you tell me one of the funny, other than that, could you tell me another funny story that you would have, managing these type of people?
Let me think.
Age groups?
Man, that's a good example of just those different kinds of phrases. Like someone will just come in and say, or I'll say, hey, can X, Y, or Z person do this? And that person might respond back and say, bet. Man, when you have just stuff like that, like bet or cap or no cap or whatever, and you just have someone who's a little older who might not be familiar with those terms, it just causes some confusion, we'll say.
And so when I may interject real quick, the funny thing is, I had a story similar to that. I was in a group chat with some coworkers a couple years ago, and same situation. We're in a group chat. Somebody asked something from me, and I was like, "Okay, bet." And the older lady, she's at the time I'm like 22, 23. She's like 42 maybe, so she's older than me, but she's not old in the grand scheme of things. She takes back saying, "Bet what?" And everybody just started dying laughing. I'm sorry for stealing your thunder, Austin, but go back.
Yeah. No. So one of the good news is that when you're talking to some of the players, these players in the NFL, most of them are younger. And when I say younger, I mean early 20s, mid-20s. Some are late 20s, and that's kind of old in the NFL already. So they're already familiar with that. So when I'm doing, or one of the other writers is doing an interview with a player, and they say bet or whatever, then it's fine. Everything's all A-okay. Yeah. It's just when you're dealing with, you know, those handful of people who are a little older who might not know what you're talking about.
Okay, cool. Because I had a story when I said that, like, one time, too. I was like, okay, bet. And, like, the older person was like, so we gambling? What's going on?
See, exactly.
So, so going into that with the players, who are some of the coolest players that you interviewed, so to speak? Like, who are some of your favorites from the Saints? You know?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on the personality, man. Like, you can have the chance to interview someone, and maybe it's because they need to plug something. So you interview someone like Drew Brees, but Drew Brees is plugging Tide. I'm just making this up. Okay. Then you have to ask Drew Brees about Tide, and it's just an odd question. So the ones I enjoy the most are when I'm able to just ask questions that the other reporters out there aren't asking, you know, because it's always the same questions over and over again. It's always like, so are we looking forward to the upcoming season? How's our team looking? Are you ready? Tell me about this play. It's always the same stuff over and over again, and it's always these canned answers. So I did an interview a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago now, with linebacker Alex Anzalone for the Saints. And I just asked him, like, so what's up, man? Carol Baskin totally killed her husband, right? Talking about Tiger King. Like, I don't know if you know Tiger King on Netflix, right? So I could just ask questions like that, or I can say, so Alex, which would you prefer? Would you prefer to sack, fumble, score Tom Brady, or would you prefer to intercept and return for a touchdown your former teammate Teddy Bridgewater, now that he's a Panther? So those kinds of questions are the things I enjoy more, like saying, hey, player on the Saints, what are you watching on Netflix? You know, what are you doing to kill your time? That kind of stuff that helps fans connect to these people as a person, not just the canned answers they give the media. So it's not necessarily the people, it's the content of the interviews, and I really enjoy the ones who are just candid with it and who say, I remember, I think it was Brandon Cooks a few years ago when he was still with the Saints. I think he said he was watching Pretty Little Liars or something. Something weird on Netflix, you know? So I remember him saying that he was watching Arrow on the CW, and that's why Arrow he did. That's why he was doing his little bow and arrow celebration after like first downs and touchdowns. So just little questions like that, little quirks and nuances. Those are the things I enjoy about interviews.
Okay, cool. Because I actually read your blog. It was like 2 weeks ago, maybe. It was with the punter Morstead. Thomas Morstead. Yep. Okay, so I read that. He was doing like the this or that. So like I'm kind of taking some of your stuff right here. I'm trying to stealing some of your ideas. So I'm gonna ask you some this or that to kind of get into more of you and what you prefer. Okay, right, so we got some rappers here. Drake or Wayne, who you taking? You know, who
Drake
you got
who?
in that? Drake or Lil Wayne. Yeah, who you got?
Man, I can't wait to hear Coach's take on this. But I'm going to say Wayne. And not only am I going to say Wayne, I'm going to say it's not close. I'm going to say it is. See, you're too young. You're too young, man. That's what this is. The kids these days, you can't trust them, can't take them anywhere.
What you mean? No, Drake put you in the fields.
So it's funny you brought this up, Austin, because I saw this when you first sent it to me. I didn't think about it though, but the fact is, I think Chris, wasn't this in our group chat earlier, or it wasn't Drake and Wayne? What was it in our group chat today?
No, we were just talking about the different Carters.
Okay. We were talking about the Carters albums. Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely Austin. I'm taking Wayne over Drake.
Okay.
Any day, all day.
I'm gonna say this. I grew up more with Drake. Don't get me wrong. I listen to Wayne, but Drake I feel like he got more hits, so I'm gonna go with Drake. You know.
See, that's just because you're young, man. It's just recency.
Recency. As politically incorrect as this may be, because it's coming from Shell Sonner, when he said Anderson Silva is like Chinese food with all the MSG, you eat a little bit and then you get full, but like an hour later you want some more. That's how I feel about Drake. Like he just leaves me wanting more, not in a good way.
Yeah.
Like, and because he don't write his own stuff too. I mean, that's a little important.
Cool.
But no, I have a question also. What label is Wayne signed to?
I thought it was Young Money. I think he got his own label
and what?
now.
Yeah, and what label is Drake signed to?
He was
Wayne?
signing Young Money, but he's not signing Young Money.
He OVO. He's October was very young. That's what he signed to now. So yeah.
So has Wayne ever signed on Drake's label? When did that happen?
Okay, you got a point. You got a point.
I can't remember.
You got a point. You got a point though.
I know you Cowboys fans. You're just forgetful.
All right, come on. We move to the next one now. Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga? Who you got? I know it's not the same genre, but
yeah. So my wife is a huge Lady Gaga fan.
Okay,
but she's too like artsy and weird for me. Like,
yeah,
I'm not about meat suits or whatever. You know, like make your statement, do whatever. I'm not trying to take away from it, but like, it's just a little too artsy. So. Give me just the plain Jane, the vanilla Taylor Swift, probably.
Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to go into like sports journalism. Like, who takes you prefer more, Stephen A. or Shannon Sharps? Like, who would you go with on that? You know.
So whoever agrees with me is the one I like more at the time.
Okay.
So probably So here's my thing. So if you're gonna then ask me about Skip or Max.
Yeah, how you know?
I think that when First Take split up and Skip went to Fox Sports, and teamed up with Shannon, both shows are trying to recreate what they had originally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's all it is. And I prefer the original. So give me Skip and give me Stephen A.
Okay.
Together.
Yeah.
When they're apart like this, man, I probably prefer Shannon.
Okay. Yeah. Shannon, he's like the king of memes. Don't get me wrong, Stephen A is too, but Shannon got some pretty funny memes. So yeah. Okay, cool. That's all I got for now. So I'm gonna hand it back to you, Coach P, and let you ask some more questions. So
all right.
Good. Get this kid out of here, man. He said Drake. Right.
Drake, man.
Drake.
Jersey
Bye,
Drake.
Austin.
Man.
Bye, Austin.
Hey, Austin, if you don't mind, if you could put it on mute.
Yeah, I got you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Adonis.
Man, that was funny. As a lawyer, Chris, this is a good question. As a lawyer, how would you feel, or how would you treat the Zion Williamson allegations?
Man, so I don't think there's going to be any legal repercussions for him. So I'll say that, right? So I don't think – go ahead.
Let's – because I just read that today. From my understanding, he sued his former agency to get in with another agency, correct?
So is that what you're talking about? Or are we talking about him allegedly taking money from like Nike and all these places to go to Duke?
Austin, which one are we talking about?
He's muted. You told him to mute.
Okay, coming back to that, yeah, I'm talking about like the Nike situation, like where he had the $100 million and they were giving him money to take, and they were asking him to admit that his parents took money along with him for the situation or whatever. It was something like that.
Okay. So those two things go together, right?
Yeah, it's sort of together or something. I think it was a feud between the agency and the former agent leaked the information or told about it or something.
That's really what this comes down to. This comes down to the old agent who was perfectly fine trying to get some money in the moment, right. And now that it's all over, trying to spill the beans. What she's done is she is hurting her chances at getting big clients in the future.
Exactly.
Because she looks like a snitch now. Like, you don't get me wrong, as a lawyer or as an agent or whatever, you need to be ethical, and there are laws and rules in place for how you're supposed to act and the things you're supposed to follow. But people talk, and clients talk, and prospective clients talk, and this is going to do a lot for her short term. She's going to get a lot of interviews. She's going to get a lot of TV appearances right now, based off trying to come clean about this, so to speak. But in the future, once this little media dies down, it's going to be hard for her to get new clients because everyone's going to say, no, I can't trust you with anything now. Like if I'm trying to have you help me, make the best decision with my money, now you're going to come back a year later and say, oh, he invested in a strip club or whatever, you know? So it's like, no, just keep that private. So I think that's really going to hurt her in the future. Okay. But I think Zion will be all right.
Yeah, same here. I don't think there will be too many legal ramifications, like you were saying, just simply off the fact that it's more of a civil matter than anything.
Well, beyond that, too, like the other thing is, had this happened 5 years ago, had this been Johnny Manziel time, then it would be looked at a little worse. But right now, considering states and the NCAA are already saying that players can start getting paid in the future, even though this happened before those laws went into effect, it signifies a change in the time and a change in how people are looking at this. And they're saying, you know what? No, these college athletes probably deserve to get paid. So even if it was wrong at the time, I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, we're saying it's okay now, so let's just let it go.
Sounds good to me. So with the whole COVID-19 situation going on, Chris, there may be a chance that the NFL season is canceled. If that happens, how would that affect you as a sports blogger? All right, well, more specifically as the editor-in-chief at Canal St.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff in play with that, right? First, I want to say I don't know anything that other just casual NFL fans don't know, but I would be shocked if the NFL season was canceled. And I say that for a few reasons. One, man, the NFL makes some money off these games, off of ad revenue from commercials, even if it means not having fans in the stadiums, which I think is the most likely outcome. I think we're going to have a season. And even if you look back, maybe 1992, early 90s, late 80s, whatever year they had the NFL strike, they had, I think, an 8-game season and then a 16-team playoff. They shortened the season.
Right.
And so you have precedent for doing that. So there's going to be an NFL season. If I had to guess, there probably won't be fans. But I'd be shocked if we just didn't have a season altogether. Now, that being said, it's hitting the sports writing world pretty hard. Okay. A lot of media places have been laying people off or furloughing. So Canal St Chronicles is one of the sites for SB Nation, and SB Nation is owned by Vox Media, and Vox Media got under some fire here recently for having to furlough or lay off a significant amount of writers here in the sports world and otherwise, just because there isn't as much sports to cover. There's no baseball going on. There's no basketball going on. All of this stuff would be happening right now. You know, I'm fortunate because the sport that I cover, it's the off season anyway. But for a team, for a sport like basketball or baseball, you would be right in the middle of it right now. So those are the ones who were hit the hardest. But again, hopefully, fingers crossed, this all gets cleaned up by the time you'd have week 1 of the NFL.
All right. Has any of your former colleagues gotten laid off?
So none at Canal St Chronicles.
Okay.
But through SB Nation and Vox, absolutely. A lot of full-time writers there, where this was their only source of income, have been furloughed, at least through the end of July. So they got nothing right now. Now, fortunately, a lot of the Vox writers unionized, and the union was able to get them some benefits during this furlough period, so their health insurance and things can keep going. But otherwise, no, they're going to be out of everything.
Okay. Next question. What certain topics do you love to cover other than the Saints? Right.
Man, I am
LeBron.
So I'm a New Orleans Saints fan. Okay. So what I like to cover, sports writing is the Saints. I am also an Atlanta Braves fan, but I just don't have the time to try to get in and write somewhere about that. I'm pretty active on social media, just with whether it's political takes or my takes on LeBron James, or whatever the case may be. So I enjoy just talking about whatever's current and relevant and sharing my opinions and telling other people they're wrong. But as far as just putting, words on paper and creating an article, for the most part, it's just going to be New Orleans Saints or maybe fantasy football.
Okay. In your opinion, is LeBron the GOAT?
Man, so have you watched any of The Last Dance?
Yes, all of them so far.
Okay. So let me counter question to you. Do you believe there can only be one GOAT? Do you think that means?
No. And then actually, with Max brought up something a couple months ago. He was like, what if somebody was better than another player, but not necessarily greater? And, he qualified those statements by saying he's a better player, but he didn't achieve more. So he's not looked at as great. Kind of like with Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. Who was the better player?
Exactly.
The better player was Wilt Chamberlain, hands down. Who was the greater player? Who had the greater career? Bill Russell. That's simple. So, in my opinion, I think LeBron is trending towards being the best player of all time, but I don't think he's the greatest of all time, So
so he doesn't have the greatest resume,
right?
Basically, because he doesn't have the most number of rings,
right?
And that's just never going to happen. He's not going to go 5 for 5. That's already even if he wins 5, even if he wins 6, the LeBron haters are still going to say he didn't go. Look at all these times he lost.
Right.
But I'm of the opinion, and this isn't too controversial. A lot of people say this, that LeBron or Jordan, one-on-one, both in their prime. My money's on LeBron. I think it comes down 51-49 if they play 100 times. So I'm not saying like LeBron would just manhandle him or body him,
Right.
But LeBron's just bigger, and he can do more. So I think LeBron is the more physically gifted and more polished athlete. But as far as that intangible portion of like the mental game and then the resume, you got to give that to Jordan. But it's just tough because no one ever says Derek Fisher's better than LeBron because look how many rings he won. No one ever says that, So I think what happens is you use rings as the tiebreaker. When you've got two people who are kind of close, you'll use rings as the tiebreaker between the two. But if you're just honestly saying, look at their skills, who's better? It's LeBron. And you know what? That'll actually bring up a good point. For me, Tom Brady is the GOAT because of the rings. Everyone says, well, look at his championships, right? But if you actually look at the physical skills of playing quarterback, Drew Brees got him beat. Like all of those, the measurables, anything you could use to compare. So passing yards, touchdowns, accuracy, completion percentage, whatever, Brees is the better player. But Brees never gets mentioned in the conversation with Tom Brady or even Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers even, which is disrespectful.
Yeah.
John Elway, all these guys get put ahead of Brees when really what it is they say, oh, well, Elway had 2 rings. Peyton had 2 rings. Brady has 18,000 rings. And that's just what they say. Okay, well, Brees doesn't have the ring, so he's not in that conversation. But they don't recognize that there are 10 other people on offense and 11 other dudes on defense that affect Brees' ability to get a ring. So the ring thing shouldn't be used, but it just does. And that happens among all sports fans.
Okay. All right. Segueing back real quick. With your law degree, did you ever consider becoming a sports agent?
It's honestly something I'm still considering.
Okay.
If I had the right opportunity come up, and it doesn't have to, everyone thinks sports agent, they think NFL, but it doesn't have to be, like it's easy to get into, it's easier. Let me say that. It's easier to get into the sport agent world, going and finding someone who's a tennis player or golfer or, I don't know, something like that, right? Not NFL, not NBA, not MLB. But if you could just so happen to luck into finding someone who is going to get drafted or going to be an undrafted free agent potentially in the NFL, then sure, I would love to. A law degree is one of the few degrees that the NFL agents allow. So in order to take the test to be an NFL agent, because there is a test you have to pass, you have to have one of certain degrees, and a law degree counts. So it's just a matter of finding the right client, because I think it's like $2,000 or something to pay the fee to become an agent. And then I think you pay a pretty significant fee each year. So if you don't have a client, it's not worth doing. So if I found a client and was able to get one, then yeah, I would take the test.
Who would be your dream player to cover as an agent, no matter the sport?
Man, that's a good question. So if you're just being selfish, you want to look at it as the player who can make the most money, right? Because agents make money based off of how big of a contract they can get their player. But at the same time, too, for me, I really put value in the quality of the person, not necessarily the quality of the athlete. And you might not be familiar with him because a lot of just kind of casual NFL fans aren't. But Demario Davis, the linebacker for New Orleans Saints, is just a great dude. Like, he is very active in the community, takes very vocal stances about racial issues or in the criminal justice system. He's actually from Brandon, Mississippi originally. So he comes back and gives back to Mississippi. So I think that kind of player, the kind of player who has good moral values, who wants to give back, who wants to make a difference, not just on the field, but in the community, would be the kind of player that I'd want to help.
Okay. Do you feel like black coaches and black quarterbacks are on the rise?
On the rise? No. Short answer, no. I think, unfortunately, what was that?
Elaborate.
I think that it'll take a black coach winning a Super Bowl without the fans saying, oh, that was just because of the quarterback. Because, for instance, when Tony Dungy won a Super Bowl, that was great, but everyone just says, oh, really, that was Peyton Manning's team, you know? And I think it takes one trailblazer to be successful, and that'll help open the door for others. Because right now, it's depressing how few black coaches there are, and not just head coaches, but assistant coaches out there. And not even just black, just talking all minorities. I mean, you have Ron Rivera. I'm trying to think if there are any other non-black minority coaches out there. I don't think there are.
Besides Ron Rivera? No.
Yeah, so I don't think there's really anything out there.
At least not head coaches. There may be a couple, around.
But I think there's a lot of progress that's still getting made. I just wouldn't say it's as fast as it should. I think the 49ers have a female assistant coach, maybe like a strength and conditioning coach,
right?
Which is a really big deal.
What about the offensive coordinator that just won the Super Bowl with the goodness, it slipped my name. Chiefs.
The Chiefs?
Yeah, the offensive coordinator.
Well, he didn't get a job anywhere as a head coach.
That's true. What you think about him?
Well, and usually what ends up happening is a player will either get, or I say a coach will get poached during the season. So I remember when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl, Kyle Shanahan was already had an agreement to go to the San Francisco 49ers, leaving the Atlanta Falcons. And it's surprising that an offensive juggernaut like the Chiefs, with Patrick Mahomes and everything they were able to do offensively, and it was their offense that kept them in the game,
right?
More often than not. And the fact that Eric couldn't find a job somewhere else as a head coach when there were openings elsewhere. So Washington was open, and Ron Rivera took that one. I'm trying to think if there were a few others. The Cowboys, maybe I'm forgetting some of the others, but there should be openings, and why not look to the offensive coordinator for one of the best offenses in the NFL that just won a Super Bowl? So I don't know what happened there. But as far as the quarterbacks go, man, this is maybe a hot take. And I get coronavirus, COVID-19 is a huge, major, issue here. But I think there's a reason Cam Newton still hasn't found a role yet.
True.
And Chase Daniel and Blaine Gabbert and
Andy Dalton.
But
Andy Dalton is pretty good though. So I can't say Andy Dalton, but those other names you just said definitely.
What's the name of that guy for the Bills?
Josh Allen?
No. Nathan Peterman, the one who came in for a while and threw like 6 picks or something. Okay. He's still in the NFL. Matt Barkley's in the NFL. Like, there are just so many who are still getting jobs. And the 2015 MVP is sitting out there without a job.
Right.
Again, granted, he's got health issues and he wasn't able to pass physicals or anything because of the COVID issue. But you can't help but just think, I wonder if race is playing any bit of that at all.
Okay. And, not to bring up your race and your background, but for those of you that do not know, although he is kind of melanin deficient, Mr. Dunnells here is half Japanese.
That is correct. My mother was full.
So with that being said, let's segue to the next question. Let's bring in Austin. We're running a little short on time, but Austin, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to ask the last couple of questions.
All right. This one's gonna piss you off a little bit, Chris, but
okay, bye.
I gotta ask it. Okay.
What's up?
I got are the Vikings the Saints kryptonite, man? Yes or no, man? Yes or no? Can you explain that to me?
Man, you know what? It's been rough. The Minneapolis Miracle and then last year's playoff game. But I'll say this: I'm not gonna give you the benefit of an answer. Okay. You don't deserve an answer to that. What I'm gonna say is, when the Saints won their Super Bowl in 2009, they beat the Minnesota Vikings in the playoffs. So if it takes losing a couple times in the playoffs to a team while also beating them to win a Super Bowl, I'll take that trade. So it's hard to say they're the kryptonite when they're one of the teams you beat in the playoffs to win your first and only Super Bowl, when the Vikings still haven't won a Super Bowl. And they're still all up in their fields, and the fans are all up in my mentions all the time. All the time.
Yeah. Okay,
so
cool.
To any Vikings fan watching this, you're just a loser. Get over it.
Okay, cool. So this is a side question, though. So would you take that 2019 Saints team or 2018 Saints team? What year was that? 2017? Am I right? 27? I can't remember.
Which one?
Most of the times that they lost to the Saints. I mean, most of the times they lost to the Vikings. My bad. Which one would you take? Which one would you take to have a better chance at winning the Super Bowl that year? That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So here's a plug. SB Nation is doing a theme week this week called What If? Mm-hmm. So all the different NFL sites are doing a series of posts about what if some event in NFL history played out differently. And the one that just came out today was, what if the Minneapolis Miracle never happened? What if Marcus Williams made the tackle? And that touchdown doesn't happen. And what ends up happening is they end up playing the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
And the New Orleans Saints were certain in their mind that they were going to beat the Eagles that year. So the following year, 2018, the Eagles and Saints played in the regular season. And that was the year that the Saints ran the score up in the regular season. And then beat the Eagles in the playoffs that same year.
Yeah, I remember
So I like my chances with the Saints and the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. And then you fast forward and they played the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. Yeah. And that would have been the first chance to have Drew Brees and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And because the Eagles won, the NFC team won with the Philadelphia Eagles running that trick play.
Yeah.
Where Nick Foles caught the touchdown. Yep.
Yeah.
If anyone in the NFL would call a trick play in the Super Bowl, it would be Sean Payton, the one who called the onside kick against the Colts. So Sean Payton's always looking to steal a possession. He's always looking to be tricky and fancy out there, sometimes to his detriment. But I think that game, the Eagles and Patriots Super Bowl, showed that if you can steal that possession, you can just put the Patriots to bed. So I think give me the year where the Minneapolis Miracle happened, because I think that team was good and they had all of the momentum going in there.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna flip the switch with this one. How is politics related to sports? So how would you say that it correlates or is involved in it, so to speak?
So you talking about with the players or with what?
Politics, like government-wise or whatever, whichever way you want to take it. I wasn't specific.
So here's the way I'll say it. Yeah, here's the way I'll say it. You have a lot of fans out there who say it's the shut up and dribble mentality, right? It's you're an athlete, no one cares about your political take. You know, you asked me, who would I prefer? Would I prefer, Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And what I told you was I want the one who agrees with me.
Yeah, definitely.
The problem is I say that as a joke. But these NFL fans, they feel that way politically with their players. When the player of the team that they like says something politically that agrees with their beliefs, They like it. Yay, support whatever cause I believe in. But the second the player on the team that they like says something that goes against their political beliefs, they don't like it. And it's got to work both ways. You have to say, okay, well, I'll support you, and I'm glad that you're taking a stance when it agrees with my beliefs, but I'm also willing to respect the fact that you can have an opinion that doesn't agree with mine. Because what will end up happening is you'll have those fans who'll say, no, you shouldn't voice an opinion. Just stick to sports. That's what you know. You didn't even graduate college. You just went to the draft.
Right.
Well, no, you can't say that when they're saying something you like and you're supporting that later. So my position is I want these players who have fame, who have recognition, who have people looking up to them, to use that fame, to use that recognition, to be able to make a positive impact, or as positive impact as they can. Take a stand for what you believe in, even if it's difficult. Voice your opinion out there. Even if that means you lose fans, make a difference. Because even just putting something out on social media and, supporting someone running for president, or supporting a cause, supporting a charity, supporting gay rights, supporting, racial justice movements, whatever it is, it will show kids of today who are looking up to those players that it's cool and okay to like those same causes and to support those same causes. So I think these players should embrace the fame they have and use that to be able to voice their opinions. It just so happens that a lot of people don't want to hear those opinions when they don't like them.
Right. You brought up a point like, in The Last Dance, MJ was like, he didn't want to get involved in politics or something with I think it was between, I don't know, but it was in North Carolina, and it was like a political battle, and they were like, the fans were upset that he didn't get involved in it or something. They were like, MJ, you the biggest person here in our state, like, why don't you get involved in it? So I think that was a cool point that you brought up. So, yeah. Going on to the next one, I would say, who's your favorite draft pick from this year's draft?
For the Saints?
Huh?
The Saints?
Unbiased. Well, you can state your Saints and then, like, unbiased, who's your favorite pick?
So for the Saints' first round pick was an offensive lineman. So that's never exciting for players. For someone who covers the team and who recognizes how important the offensive line is, then that's a really good pick. But, just casual fans, they want something splashy. They want a big move. They want an offensive player. So I would say the most intriguing player the Saints drafted was the player they took actually in the last round, Tommy Stevens, a quarterback out of Mississippi State, who formerly played for Penn State. So he ended up transferring from Penn State to come to Mississippi State to just play quarterback at Mississippi State. But when he was at Penn State, he played quarterback, running back, wide receiver. He played everything. And if that sounds familiar, it's because he's basically Taysom Hill. And what's intriguing about Tommy Stevens is it's curious to see what they plan for him, because it's possible they plan Tommy Stevens to be the backup to Taysom Hill in Taysom's current role. So Taysom runs routes. He, throws passes. He plays as kind of a gadget quarterback. He plays on special teams. So maybe they want Tommy Stevens to be that. Or maybe they plan on having Taysom as the franchise quarterback of the future. And they want Tommy Stevens to be a type of quarterback who could be a backup, who could run the same playbook. Because right now, if Drew Brees were to get hurt, Taysom Hill's playbook is different. Taysom does different things on the offense. Jameis Winston mirrors more what Drew Brees can do in the offense. So if the offense were to shift from Brees to Winston, the plays don't really change. But if it shifts from Brees to Taysom, it does. And then in the future, if you have Taysom as your starting quarterback, and then you have to go to a different backup who's more of a pocket passer, it's new plays, and the offense might struggle. So it's possible that Tommy Stevens was actually drafted to be the long-term backup quarterback to Taysom Hill. So I think that presents a lot of options and a lot of intrigue and a lot of fun storylines for the Saints this year.
Okay.
But my favorite pick across the NFL, I would say, would be, because you caught me off guard, I was really hoping that Isaiah Simmons, another versatile player, he plays linebacker, safety, cornerback.
Versatile.
So he ended up going
everything, basically.
Yeah, he ended up going to the Arizona Cardinals. And I think the Cardinals are going to be a scary good team this year. They've got Kyler Murray. They traded for DeAndre Hopkins. So their offense was going to be good. And I think adding Isaiah Simmons on the other side of the ball is going to make them a fun team in the West.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, Austin, you have any more questions?
I'm gonna leave it at that. Well, maybe this one. Okay, I got one more. Okay, how is life? How is life since quarantine? What have you been doing? Like, health wise, running the dog, feeding the fam. What?
Yeah, man. So I was working from home for a while. My wife was also, but we're slowly transitioning, kind of going back into the office. Okay. And I have a 1-year-old right now too, and it is a tough time to have a 1-year-old in the middle of the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
So, generally, life is fine, but I'm going to be ready for this just to get back to normal.
Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to hand it back to you, Coach.
Austin, you are not too bad for a Cowboys fan.
Thank you.
Austin, I certainly appreciate you doing this with me, man. We're going to be in touch.
All right,
Chris,
definitely.
If you want to go – well, Austin, before you go, go ahead and drop your Instagram handle.
Okay, cool. My Instagram handle is smooth_aus, SMOOTH_AUST. Add me on IG.
All right.
Kids, man.
Exactly. Go ahead, Chris. Hey, again, this has been For the Health of It. I'm your host, Corian K-Pad Paget. And Chris, before we go, if you could please drop your Instagram handle, Twitter handle, and also your Canal St Chronicles website.
Yeah, so you can go to canalstreetchronicles.com, spelled just like it sounds, and you can cover all of our Saints news, analysis, breaking down different pieces of whether it's draft picks, the schedule release, whatever. You can also follow Canal St Chronicles on Twitter at SaintsCSC, and you can find me on Twitter at Chris Dunnells. Easy cheesy.
All right. Hey, and if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to comment and subscribe and like the channel/podcast. Again, this has been For the Health of It. I'm your host, Corian K-Pad Paget. Chris, thank you again, my friend.
Definitely. Take it easy, K-Pad.
Yep.